Welcome to Keiser Voices, the story of success, brought to you by Keiser University Graduate School, here where the academic world meets personal triumph. Join us today as we dive into the captivating tales of success.
My name is Dr. Belinda Atchison. I have been working at Keiser, I think, for 12 years now. I have taught at other schools and practicing in the field since 1997 as a mental health counselor. And I just super love counseling and teaching, and I have a lot of variety of experiences. Recently, more private practice and consulting, but I've done a lot of things in residential and substance abuse and mental health areas, nonprofit places, foster care, just a huge variety of different spaces that I have had the privilege of being a part of. Based on my opinion, I just think we need to talk about mental health more. I think it's kind of a balance of normalizing, like acting like it's not so different from other illnesses, but take it seriously enough that people feel heard and understood. And I don't think we find that balance very well. I think we either act like it's this really weird foreign thing, or we are dismissive. So I think we need to find that balance in the middle of honoring mental health and honoring emotional health, and have it part of the conversation of what we talk about. It's so strange. Our society is very much, we'll talk about physical ailments or problems, but we just really don't talk about the emotional piece. So kind of honoring, I think, that emotional connection without like dismissing that it's, we just have awful words in our society like overreacting or too sensitive or dramatic, and it's just very dismissing of people who have, and we all do have some extreme emotions at times. So I think it's just important for us to really be that balance and just talk about it. Let's just talk about mental health. Let's talk about coping. Let's talk about emotional regulation, just like we talk about the weather or we talk about my back hurting or something else like that. I'm not quite sure that it's so different. And I think that's part of the problem, is that we get kind of glummed in together with a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. So society kind of what I was saying before, like society really just doesn't talk about the mental health, and so we kind of put shame or judgment on those families. And for some reason, we believe that physical illnesses are less in our control than emotional ones. I mean, it's just really kind of strange. Like all of those pieces, whether it's physical manifestation or emotional or mental, all have genetic and environmental aspects. So I think we just need to quit blaming families in general. This idea that we cause things. Do families have a contribution? Of course, but there isn't. We haven't figured it out, right? There isn't a one-to-one correlation that if you do this, this happens, or if this runs in the family, this shows up in a child. That's just not true. I mean, I think we would like to find some sort of direct connection, and we know some things are correlated, but it's not always. So I think quit blaming families and be supportive and understanding. I think throughout my years of working with adopted kiddos and having some adopted kiddos myself, there's a really sense of judgment and misunderstanding, and really prevents people from just being open and getting help. I mean, everything's more normalized and treatable if we are open and honest about it and not so judgy. I think my clients that handle the mental health struggles in their kiddos or in their families are the ones that just do better by not personalizing it and just treating it matter-of-factly like they would any kind of other illness. So I think that's probably an important part. Okay. This one's a hard one because the most important thing, right? There's so many important little things. So I think it's kind of an umbrella of things. I think one of the really cool things is that everyone is different. And I think that is one of the joys of being in the mental health counseling field is that no matter what label a client might have, they're all uniquely different in their own spaces and environments. And while there's some similarities or some things that might help me from client to client or theories, it's really, really important to treat each one as an individual. Like the DSM is a good tool, right? It's a coding book though. And so we need to be careful not to label. I think we do too much labeling. This person is this. And it's really more about symptoms and trying to narrow down diagnoses so we can give good treatment, which is all lovely. But treating people as if they are that label, I think is a big problem with honoring people where they are, who they are, and what they're struggling with. So like knowing everyone's different, the joys of helping each individual client, and I think just kind of being nice and open, like it's that empathy piece, right? So treating people as their individual person, but the empathy of like seeing things through their eyes or like learning to listen and not judge. I think that is really super important with helping in understanding people who struggle with mental health issues. I think one of the biggest things, and I know we've talked so much about COVID, but I think COVID did some really good things for mental health. I mean, I think it caused a lot of mental health distress, but in that distress, I think our insurance companies stepped up to the plate and said, hey, let's do some things virtually. And then people went, oh, I can do counseling online. I don't have to go anywhere, or I don't have to pay anything. Some people didn't even know they had mental health benefits. And so I think that space really helped. I know some of the insurance companies waived copays for a little bit. And so I think that really helped people to understand the availability of it, but also the necessity. I think people had to reach out for help because they were isolated. And we know that isolation and loneliness is way more dangerous than depression. And I think that has helped us maybe normalize mental health a little bit, or maybe helping people to realize how important it is to be connected to people. We are relationally created. We need other people. And so I think that pandemic of isolation and separateness, I think helped us to realize how important our mental health is. And so I think that's helped. Other pieces, I think our younger generation are talking about emotions more. I just think they need some more help with some language and what they can do with that information. That's a super great question. I think we need to promote wellness more, like prevention. And unfortunately, being in the field for 27 years, something like that, prevention is often what we cut first, right? In government programs and school programs. But we have to be mindful that we need to do wellness. We need to do prevention. We need to talk about mental health, not just absence of mental illness symptoms, right? Like kind of be more open to talking about what's needed. There's just so much that if we talk about it and we walk through it, give our kiddos resources. And there's some that are trying to reach out to our kids and text apps to try to help with mental health. But I really think that our communities, probably most likely our schools, are the easiest place to do that, is to teach emotional intelligence. I actually think that I know there are a few schools around my area that are doing some, I think they call it social emotional learning in the elementary level, which is lovely, but I just don't think it's enough. I think it's a class that kids probably need to have more, and I probably step on some academics' toes, but more than some of the academic courses, because a generation or two ago, we didn't have the internet and available information. So it made more sense to teach more on the basis of knowledge. But I think now we need to teach people what to do with that knowledge or how to critically assess that knowledge. And I think with that critical thinking, and if we could add some emotional regulation, if we could add some emotional intelligence to that, I think that our kids would just have more resources. I think they just, and adults too, I don't think there are enough resources to help people to regulate their emotions. I think we just get kind of taught to suck them up or shove them down or dismiss them. And if we had more tools with conflict management and emotional regulation and coping skills for kiddos and their parents, I think we would just be much better resourced, right? We would have the coping and ability to manage, because life isn't going to get any easier. It's stressful, right? And so we need the coping skills and the resiliency. Resiliency literature is another really good piece of creating some resources in your schools and your communities to kind of help people, resource people, right? Give them, one of my clients calls it spoons, like I don't have enough spoons, right? So give them more spoons to help them to manage life's demands and life's stressors. So I think my bias with mental health is really changing the language, probably a little bit more with the positive psychology, health psychology spaces, kind of the trauma-informed languages that we know now is really honoring the people where they're at, not labeling them, but helping them with their symptoms, but also helping them resource. I tell all of my to-be therapists that I've trained is like, don't dig more than you build, right? You have to help clients to go through some of their hurts and struggles, but you have to give them the resources to cope and to manage. And a lot of times people don't have that. So if we can talk about mental health more, if all of us individually can go to counseling and make ourselves better, to make other people better, and talk about your counseling. Yep, I have therapy every Monday at noon, right? And just normalize it and talk about it. I think that the stigma will go down. I think it'll help us to be more kind and understanding of where people are and what's going on with them, and help them to get the resources that they need to be their best selves.
Thank you for journeying with us today on Keiser Voices, the story of success. As we close this chapter, remember, every story has its next page.